Good evening, everyone. So if we could have a motion to open the April 12th ZBA meeting,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
If we could all stand and give a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you, everyone. So if I could have a motion to approve the minutes from our March 21st meeting,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. And if I could have a motion for the approval of the planning board as they requested to be lead agency on the Brasco 132 Main Street
So moved.
application,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Great, thank you. What's that, me? Great. Okay, now we're going to move to the items of old, we should sign this first. Can I read ZBA? Right. Is everybody at the sign? Great. You got it? All right, now we will move to old business, so we'll continue our public hearing could I have a motion to adjourn 55 Howard Street to the May 16th meeting?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And 45 Hillside West, is anyone here? Okay, could I also have a motion to adjourn 45 Hillside to May 16th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And now if we could move to 168 Madison. Good evening.
My name is Denise Shern, and I'm the attorney for the applicant. As you may recall, this is one that we had to renotice because the sign had come down from the
Yes.
last hearing. So I think at this point, we need to open the public hearing.
So if we can have a motion to open the public hearing for 168 Madison,
So moved.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
And just as a reminder to the board, what we're seeking tonight is a lot coverage variance for the addition of a small plunge pool in the rear yard to allow lot coverage to be 29.07%.
Yes. And so the things that we were discussing were about some of the things that you were going to do, removing the bin.
Actually, like, when we did the survey, you said you remove the bin, it's actually 28.7% lot coverage, so the relief is 3.7%.
Right. That's why I wanted,
Is that in the decision? I didn't notice
Yeah,
it. That's
it's in the
great.
decision.
Great.
okay, great. And I think we some of the things that we were just going to finalize, was there any, we're going to move the septic at all anywhere, or you're just going to keep?
The septic was designed by an engineer.
So you're comfortable with that?
Specifically, I mean, it's, yeah, because he stamped the plan, so confident with that. And I spoke to him over the phone and he has no issues. with
Okay.
it. So confirm
And it was-
That was just
It's
one of the
20
questions that we
feet.
had, right?
Yeah, and it's 20 feet from the pool, so it's all legal. But I think that this is all,
I think we're all good, since
Yeah.
you,
To hear from the public.
right, so you had done a good job of reaching out to many of the neighbors, just hadn't heard back from that
The only
one,
yes,
the one next door.
that continued throughout the month. Still could not be resolved.
Okay, So now let's just ask, is there anyone here this evening from the public that has comments about 168 Madison?
No, there's nobody on the line either.
Okay. All right, so I think we're all pretty comfortable, but I want to,
Yeah, I have the decision.
Okay.
If the board wants to consider it now, or if you want to do it again.
Just do
I
it.
think it's,
Okay.
yeah. Right,
So,
so Liz, you want to,
no, we can close the public hearing.
so do we have to do an official vote first? Do we actually,
We'll close the public hearing. and
Okay.
then-
so if we could have a motion to close the public hearing,
So moved.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. And so now if we should take an official vote on the variances as discussed in our last month's meeting.
And in the written decision, I'll just summarize the relief
Right.
that's being granted. So
Great,
originally they asked for to construct an 11 by 12 foot plunge pool with an 8 by 8 foot spa. And variances were required for lot coverage to be 29.07% with 25% permitted. And then there's also, that included relief for a proposed storage bin that was actually as built on the property. But during the review process, the applicant agreed to remove the storage bin and reduce the actual lot coverage variance requested to 28.7% or 2,600 square feet, or 25% is permitted. Therefore, relief being granted in this determination is 3.7%. For all of these set forth in written determination, the board hereby
Thank you.
determines to grant variances.
great.
We just need to approve that.
So
I
if
make
we can
a
make,
motion to approve the decision as written.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. And we'll just sign this and then we can. Background noise.
All day.
Really?
I wish I would've been out all day.
Okay, great. So now if we can move to 23 Suffolk and 8 Concord Street. So we could open the public hearing for 23 Suffolk Street and 8 Concord.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At the last meeting, we discovered that we did not notice the pool equipment for a front yard variance.
Right.
So when we had noticed the proposed pool house, the pool equipment itself hadn't been noticed, and also it's close to the side yard. So we went back to our pool design.
I'm sorry, Ms. Schoen, can you just speak up a little bit? I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
We went back to our pool designer, our pool engineer, and he said it could fit the equipment into a smaller location. So we shrunk the location for the proposed pool equipment, so that now meets the side yard setback. But it still requires a variance from the front yard setback. And also needs a variance just to be situated in the Texas front yard, because it needs to be a rear yard. And here again, we have a true lot that has 2 front yards. That's that we're facing, and why we need a front yard variance for something that might.
So I had one question with the pool equipment there. Can we make the wall, the stone part of the wall higher or something so that there's more of a physical barrier?
Separation.
Yeah, because at the moment it's a very low stone wall with a picket fence on top,
Right.
which isn't going to do anything for sound.
Oh, I see. Okay, so raise the.
Does that seem,
To keep.
because it's unusual for us to approve a, pool equipment in a front yard, so I think we'd want it definitely.
How, do you have an idea about how?
Well, you're limited by 4 feet.
It'd have to be 4. Yes.
Yes, and that should be tall enough. You could check with the pool equipment, but that should be tall enough to,
Generally, it's not
Yeah.
much higher than that. Right. That's a good idea.
What size is the fence at present?
the fence at the moment is 4 feet, 0 inches. Here it is here, but you see the stone part is very low.
Okay.
So it would be the same thing, except I think it should be solid.
I mean, it would absorb the
Sound,
sound
yeah.
better. And then,
I mean, you could also, if they wanted, we're not gonna determine your aesthetics here, but you can also make a wood fence that has sound, something sandwiched between, if they wanted to keep the same concept of stone with wood. Yeah, there's because we've done that before with generators and
Yes.
things like, and other pool equipment things where they wanted wood. So it just needs to be a soundproof barrier.
or more of,
Right.
and the aesthetics part would be the ARB.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I guess one other question that had been raised was merging the two lots.
Yes, they are merged by deed. I do have to ask the town assessor and ask the assessor to physically merge the tax numbers so that it's just one tax lot now instead of two. But there are deeds on record that have merged the properties together so that it is one piece.
So Liz, we can't
So do we put that in?
do it until there's one tax map number, correct? Make a decision or,
No, you can.
Okay,
Just
you
make it a
could-
Condition of approval.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so if that's all in the
I have a
decision.
question on the fence on Concord Street. That's a front entrance, isn't it?
Front yard.
And that's what, 6 feet?
No, the fence is 4 feet.
Four.
That's 4. That was the one I just showed you.
I
here.
thought it was here on this side. You showed.
No, it's this one.
That fence there looks larger.
They've got a 4-foot dimension on it. It's just because this building is so tiny.
Okay,
It is a very
Yes, squat, yeah.
And kind of maybe your eye, since it's part wall and then, you know, it makes
Yes.
it feel like it's a little bit taller.
it sure did.
I stood next to it though. so
You did.
I know how
good.
tall I am.
Thank you.
just asking if anybody in the public.
Sure. Is there anyone here in the public that wants to speak about 23 Suffolk and 8 Concord Street? Okay, great. Yeah, so we can make a motion to close the public hearing.
Moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So then, does everyone feel comfortable that if we do the conditions of one, coming up with some type of 4-foot wall or fence that will be sound absorbing for the pool equipment, number one, and then number two, the condition would be on the tax merging, tax numbers.
Should we have not closed, I mean, should we get a technical, something about the soundproof wall before? Liz, is it okay just to put that in as a requirement of the decision, or do we need actually to have a specific detail to?
That's up to you.
Okay.
You can make it a condition. Or you can ask for detail, but you already closed.
We close the public here, we'd have to reopen it.
You may want to make it a condition of approval.
Yeah, I don't know, what does everybody else feel?
I think if it's a condition of approval and you understand that, and you understand how,
I understand that if you don't like it.
and I mean, that'll be in it, and when the building inspector goes to give. you
Right,
know, just-
okay.
We can just talk to Chris about it, so that way, if it's detailed, Chris will follow that and.
And that's what will be on the ARB plan.
Right.
And they'll be the ones that are gonna really do the aesthetic of what
Right.
it looks like.
That
Okay,
sounds
I
good,
think
okay.
it's okay.
Yeah, so we'll just do it as a condition of approval and that's fine. I think the rest of it is.
So
fine.
can we have a motion to approve this as we've just discussed?
So moved.
I
You have
second.
to direct me to write the decision and then you.
Right.
The decision was.
Yeah,
Okay, so can we have a motion for Liz to write a decision on the 23 Suffolk Street and 8 Concord Street with regard to the variances as discussed, as well as we have 2 conditions. One would be the official merging to have 1 tax number for the merged lots, and 2, that you will submit to the ARB, and then it'll be approved by the building inspector that there will be a 4-foot wall or fence that will act as a sound absorber for the pool equipment.
I'll write that decision for the next meeting. for your
Great.
consideration.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Denise.
thank you.
Good night.
You too.
You too. Okay. Now, if we can open the public hearing for 20 Lighthouse Lane.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, late afternoon, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
Can you just give me your name, please?
Yes, Shannon Bradley,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I'm the permit agent for the homeowner. And do I need to swear in this evening?
No, you
No,
will.
since, thank you though for asking.
Okay, so I do want to, first of all, thank you for having me back to provide you the requested information from the last meeting. I did bring with me both estimates that I was asked to bring. One is from East Hampton Fence and Gate in reference to what they feel is necessary to bring the gate down to size. And the second was from South Shore Tree Inc. in reference to planting 4 green giants, those are arborvitaes, 6 foot in height. And that, you know, that we would get your recommendation if you want it less or more. This particular quote is for 6 feet in height, and it's to surround the sides of the driveway gate to maximize visibility of the gate itself. Please add $75 per foot for each tree for any height or decrease in height change. And then those are both estimates. So I did print those out, and I have, if you want 4, I have copies for you
Great.
guys.
Thank
Do
you.
you need any other size to get here? Just one. So there's 5 in total. You're welcome.
Now, is the first company that you indicated, are they the ones to put it in initially?
They are, and we
Okay.
were actually hoping to have a representative from that company here this evening to help describe, you know, how we did in our presenting to you an as-built.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I have the homeowner here with me, her name is Joanne.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
Joanne.
Good, thank you. How are you?
My name's Joanne Zervos McGuire is my husband's name, so, and I practice law.
I was gonna say, should we swear you in?
Practice law.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to sort of fill in some blanks here because, we weren't here, we had something happen, so, and we really didn't think it was gonna not happen, so, and then Shannon sort of filled me in on what went on, so I sort of tried to move into overdrive to sort of answer some of your concerns and like sort of address the variance issues, so. And as for the arborvitae, we're completely amenable to having them installed to decrease the presence visibility. We didn't do something like that in the fall before we received notification because I was kind of thinking about those big red bushes. But my landscaper was like, wait till this winter, see how you feel, because you want something that decreases visibility. So I was gonna go back to him and suggest the arborvitae myself, but so that was the delay in that. But I'd like to also address some of the issues, including the initial application and our making one. And then also why we feel very strongly about the uniqueness and security concerns to why we need the fencing and the gate. So.
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
Okay, so I have some documents you might want to follow along with.
And so just, we can be brief since we all understand what the,
Yeah. I
Because
just-
we went through this all last time, just so, but we couldn't fill.
Yeah. Yeah. sure.
No, we
Oh,
want
oh,
to
sure.
hear from you. We
Thank
just
Yeah.
don't want to spend an hour
Okay,
discussing this again.
all right.
Because we spent a lot of time on
I know,
this.
and I apologize for that, but I just want to make sure you had all the
Sure.
proper information.
Audio.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Okay, so at the.
Joanne.
Yes.
Joanne, if you could stand right here so that it'll be,
Sure.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then just real quick before she comes up, I did want to say, the only thing that I had briefly to say about that I didn't get out hindsight last time was that this will be the third time. The first time the public notice went out through the mailings and the proper, I hung the signs. Then there was no meeting until it got posted home. So we had a second mailing and posting. And now this will be the third time, just to get this out. And as far as I know, I won't know tonight until you ask, but there's been no like public resistance, or if you guys say comments, I don't know if that's important. I don't know, but usually, I mean, I know that does play a role, that the adjoining
Absolutely.
properties, there's been no adversity saying anything atrocious about the gate that exists, and I did forget to say that, and I know it is important.
And we appreciate that comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, sorry, I'll try to be as brief as possible, okay?
thank you.
But as I said, we moved into Lighthouse in about December 21st, December of 2021.
Mhm.
And what became pretty obvious to us right from the beginning is that corner and how dangerous it was. There was always oncoming traffic. In fact, during the time that we lived there to renovate it, you guys installed an entire pipe system. There was traffic blocking up Lighthouse, coming down at all sorts of speeds. So what happened was very quickly, I retained East Hampton Gate to speak to them about fencing. And as you can see from my first submission is my May 30th letter to the ARB board regarding my security concerns. My second photograph is our house in West Hampton Beach, which we just renovated. We would never install gates or fences in an open space, but for our security concerns. As you can see from the next picture, you can see the proximity to 114. It's right off the corner.
Right, we're definitely aware of we've all gone by the house, that's our job.
So now, from the inside of the house, because somebody said, other people might do this as well. If you look at it from the inside, it feels like you're living in an enclosed vegetable pen. I can assure you, nobody would want to spend $50,000 or $60,000 to put up the deer fence and feel like they're living in a small vegetable pen, if not for the security concerns. So my next item that I'd like you to consider is on January 14th, we retained East Hampton Fencing Gate. At that point, you can see my email chain with Kelly at East Hampton, where we were under the impression that we had received an approval on 7/28. We had been requested to provide more photos and a safety letter, which we did. And my husband and our initial letter to her about securing the approvals of the ARB. I can assure you, we would have been more than happy to come in here and work with you to get your input on how best to make the property safe.
So I'm sorry, who went in front of the ARB?
It was Kelly,
They
East
didn't go in
Hampton
front of
staff.
the ARB, they submitted the application and then it was kicked back because it needed a variance. That's how the whole started.
Oh, I see.
So this is all after the thing has been installed, correct?
It was no, we didn't start until we were under the impression in July of 2022 that we had the approval.
But Carrie just said that you never went before the ARB, or there wasn't anything that
No,
came
what
in.
she's stating is that she got an email from East Hampton Fence.
Oh, whoa.
Not that
Right.
they have it, she's just stating that East Hampton Fence.
And then I believe the file was lost, and I believe Sheriff Schiavone, when Shannon was able to find the file, said, well, if we'd known, we wouldn't have sent out such a nasty letter out the gate, because, yeah.
Code enforcement, Scrivoni.
Oh, sorry.
So anyway, so for us, I believe we qualify in terms of the safety issue, and if we aren't able to access that front yard because our children, our pets, their toys might not be safe. If you look at that initial picture of that vegetable pen without the deer fencing, I think I can bring in brokers to give you a dollar figure on that. Additionally, if I tried to install an additional tree line, we probably, in order to raise them in a healthy manner, probably reduce the area of our front yard by, 15 to 20%. Then additionally, I also want you, so I believe we've qualified for number one, or at least a serious look at number one. And number two, the safety hardship inherent to that area along 114 is also evidenced by the fact that there are a number of houses along 114 that have fully enclosed their property in over the foot fences and deer fencing. And also presumably for safety reasons, if you look at the over 5-foot gates and deer fences along 114 and White House, we have 2 gates and fences directly across the street for us. The deer fencing is on the outside and it's all full of gentian plantings. If you start looking down 114, that's the deer fencing across the street. You can see another 114 gate that's completely enclosed in like dirt. There's more fencing all along 114 as you go up that hill.
But any fencing that's illegal.
It's not,
can't count as
kind of
precedent.
No,
precedent.
I'm
Yes,
just
you're
saying
saying that
that it evidences a security concern. People are not doing that without proper basis. And again, with respect to the schematics, there are 5- and 6-foot deer fences and gates all around Sag Harbor. Deer fencing is the easiest way to enclose things. You can find it everywhere. I gave you guys a sampling of just deer fences and so clearly, we didn't want to go with a style that was PVC fencing or these big cattle fences. We tried to, be consistent with the whole view of Sag Harbor, the iron, the stone, the unobtrusive deer fence. So we really, and the application and the expenditure, and it's all really to make our property safe. And I think everybody along that road, especially the guy across the street, whether it applies or not, are doing it to protect their property and their guests and the people who live there, because it's a very dangerous road. You cannot get across the street. And if you don't let us protect our properties that way, then we have to consider a traffic light there. In which case, we're just gonna have congestion, but it will make it safer. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Liz, can I ask you, and Carrie, the deer fence hasn't been noticed, correct? No, so the way that we understood it the last time is that the deer fence was going to be compliant, which meant it was only going to be 4 feet high. The one that was there was going to be removed. We don't have a variance before us to have a 6-foot deer fence.
Yeah, can I speak to that? I went in last week to ask about that.
I think we discovered the issue
And
here.
we,
Yes,
Correct, yeah, we discussed it at the last meeting and we would, I went into the village like last week, I believe it was, and I spoke to Carrie and just in how do I amend the application?
Because I
to include that?
seriously, that's, you know, equally as important. I mean, you cannot.
But it's not, I'm just saying, at the
So,
moment,
in
it's not,
order
no.
for it to be noticed, there's a time frame. So we have to notice the paper, which it's a Monday deadline, so it's usually about 15 days prior to a hearing that something has to be added, then it has to go in front of the building inspector to write a denial, and then it goes to the village attorney to issue a public
Okay.
notice. So
So that,
Right,
the one I went to, so could, if you look, it could be folded over and brought down, and then we could do the noticing, the mailing, the 10-day, and make the public notice for people to come and do it in a separate attempt to.
well, it would be a whole, if you wanna add it to this one, then it would be on, we put it on, renotice it for the March 16th, the May 16th meeting.
Okay.
And then that would be fine. If you wanted to do a totally separate application, it'd be the whole thing again.
I think you should add it and take your chances.
Because I did make the effort to go into the village and ask, how do I move forward, but I don't think there was enough time, yeah, it wasn't gonna be
Kind of just have to do it right away.
time to do a
Yeah.
mailing.
And when she explained to me, I don't think I see this in the, I'm like, no, we have to, we should. Yeah.
Just so you know, I don't know, we'd have to actually research this, but it's very rare for us to approve a fence that's 6 feet tall in a front yard. We don't really want to set a precedent because then everybody's going to want 6-foot fences in their front yards. And there's nothing about your property, although it's on there are a lot of properties in Sag Harbor on busy streets and on busy corners, and it doesn't necessarily make it a unique situation. So that's what the difficulty of this is,
And I
because it sets a
appreciate that.
precedent.
And I appreciate that. However, I think, I understand what you're saying, but you should also look around that area.
Yes, but
And
the
I
illegal
understand
fences
that.
are
I
illegal.
know.
It doesn't
I
mean we
understand
can-
that. But and I don't I agree with you, but I also think that the situation in that area is not like merely unique, it is like very unique. And if you look at the corner of if you look, if you want me to bring, first of all, my gate isn't 6 feet.
No, we understand that.
But we
It's
think you
totally
have a
separate.
tasteful gate,
And the deer fence, I mean, look, I can bring it down to like 5 feet and let the shrubbery grow some more and do something like that. But, I'm okay with, if you want me to do that, but if you want to. Anyway, whatever. If you'd like to come and see it from my perspective, I think you'd understand why I want the height, but I'm willing to work with you, bring in more shrubs. I mean, we did buy it with like 3 rows of shrubs along 114, so that side was sort of, and then we have the 4-foot fence in front of that. It's just now Lighthouse, which, anyway.
So one thing from the last being here and what I've learned, because this is a learning process for me and I appreciate it all. And I do appreciate how important this decision is. The one thing that I read in section 7-712B permitted, it's that the alleged hardship has to be relating to the property in question is unique, because I know that word, it definitely is a hot word right now. But it says that what that means is it also does not apply to a its definition for this reasoning, unique in itself is one of a kind. That's the definition of the word. Unique applying to property doesn't exist because no land is unique. No piece of land in this entire world is unique, that by definition as well. But applying that word to this code, it says that it does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. So the reason that we wanted to present and give an option to see our point of view for her property being unique, is the safety level being right on 112. So if I had to.
114?
114. If I had to equate a mathematical equation and you counted the houses on Lighthouse Lane, how many of them border a corner lot, which is 2 fronts, a rear and a side? How many of the 1 of 20 have that situation? 1. So that makes it, just by definition, I'm just saying, just if there's any way to look at it from that point of view.
Well, but we have to consider there are
Those use
lots of,
variance Standards,
Hmm?
those are use variance standards you're looking at. This is an area variance request.
Right.
Okay, so.
But the
there
other
are
thing,
two
though, is-
different, there's
Sorry?
areas.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
but there's also
It's,
lots of properties that border 114 who would also
That are on the
want-
corners.
That aren't corners that would want
right.
maybe
but
6-foot
Most
fences.
of them we have addressed, and like I said, I wanted to be here on our own merit, I don't want to say use fences and gates and pictures of other things that exist. But coincidentally enough, most of the people thought they have the same safety issue, are corner lots.
And all of that.
I mean, we have like 10, 12 different pictures, and I'm just presenting that just so you know that they're thinking, we're not alone in our thinking. This homeowner is not alone in her thinking that she has a safety issue. I don't know if that could help in any way in determination for the next person to come before you and say, you know, I live at such and such. I have some examples that are on a very quiet street that don't corner that traffic. And you know, they're not a corner lot with 2 sides, front and a rear, they're a regular lot. Like you said last time, you had said like, oh, it's big and spare. I don't see the difference. This homeowner feels there is a lot of other homeowners directly across the street, directly to the right, and 3 or 4 houses to the left. So, I mean, these are adjacent properties have also done the same. It doesn't make it right. I don't know if it's legal. I don't even want to look into.
I would also add that the front of my property is very close to the street. It's not even set back very far, so like a lot of them are more pulled back along this way. Mine is like right here. And the others, and also it's on this downhill,
I just think that for you to, if this case did set precedent, it would be for a reason and it would be just. And I feel like that's what you're here to do. So if the person that lives 6 houses behind her that doesn't have the same condition, that would be somebody that would be, I mean, I'm not boss of anybody, but that would be a no, because you don't have the same safety issue. And that also includes the pitch of what her property is. If it was a child safety issue or an animal safety issue.
So you're talking about the steep hill
Things
traffic
go
coming down?
both ways, it's coming up and going down. Lighthouse goes down
Yep.
and 114 goes up. And it's that stretch, because they're long properties, nobody's really thinking anything's gonna be there. But, you know, a 4-foot fence is just not going to be able to like keep a child who, and at that point, I'm only maybe 3 feet from that corner of 114 and Lighthouse. So, and
Okay.
I also feel for the guy across the, just as an aside, I mean.
And the
because,
next block down too. Yeah.
Anyway, if there's anything I can do, honestly, I would have done it in January to sort of work with you to resolve this, because, you know, look, we love the town. And, you know, even though we have West Hampton and this, but my husband, we kept our boat here, I mean,
Okay,
so,
so we just have to really think about the property, not the personal.
right, sorry, no, just trying to work with you, that's all I'm trying to say.
All right, so I think, go ahead, Ham.
Well, the difficulty as I see it is that the fence was put up and we never had an opportunity to review it. And now you're coming to us and asking us and telling us all about that. But we could have given you some direction. And effectively, by doing something like this, we set up for
Bad person.
everybody who comes now with a fence or it's gonna come a fence, they're gonna say, we want a 6-foot fence.
But can I just address that? I mean, even in the law, I made a good faith attempt, and actually, I even mentioned the fence. I mean, if we had had our ARB, whatever, we would have had a discussion, we could have, you know, told you about I mean, nobody was trying to just put up the fence. There was a good faith belief. The people at ARB asked for 3, you know, a security letter, photographs. I mean, and we felt like we were responsive if there was any.
When did the ARB request those things? Because it never
It
went before
in.
the ARB,
I
correct?
have some information there.
So the lack of,
She, from what I can see, here, we put it in, it had to have been my first email, and Kelly's, you know, I'm disappointed Kelly's not here, but I also know she's dealing with heart issues with her dad, and I don't think it's in state. But in January 25, she said she was working on it. Then, May 19th, a letter written by you would be very helpful in pushing the process through. And then they said, I printed out your photos, can you scan and send it to me, and I'll hand deliver it to ARB along with your photos. And then finally, July 12th, I tried to call, please verify your phone number. I wanted to inform you that they are processing your approval on July
that's the key
28th.
right there from East Hampton Fence. That's where I feel like, I agree with you coming in as an as-built, but I didn't want to misspeak for anyone. The last time I was here, I would have to have a direct quote. But this homeowner was sent that email from a company, and that's why I presented that she acted in good faith when she received that from a very
Right.
prominent company that's been here for
Yeah,
years.
we're just questioning the fact that, was there any real
So,
action?
East Hampton Fence submitted a application to the Village of South Harbor for certificate of appropriateness on July 12th. It was kicked back because of 2 reasons. The CO needed to be in the current owner's name, and the the gate was over 4 feet in the front yard. It never went in front of the ARB. The ARB never asked for any documentation.
No photos or letters?
And that
Well,
was
that's
not-
typical. That's what always, every application has to have that.
But that was not related to this.
We have
homeowner.
pictures, so
Yeah, they were submitted, yeah.
we have pictures the same day that the application was submitted. So
Right, so that's only just a part of a normal application,
But
but if you
that's,
got kicked back, then it never got in
but
front
that's
of anyone.
after it was installed or prior to installation?
That was after.
That was still after it was installed.
What, the gate?
No, no, no.
Kelly's request
Okay.
was after the gate was installed.
No, the gate wasn't installed until like late July. I hired Kelly to do the plans and stuff January 25th.
But all we have in the file
Exactly.
is that, which
I don't
indicates that
understand.
nothing ever was actually
front of any
submitted by
boards.
any board.
Or appropriately submitted. It was, something was
And the
submitted.
building inspector didn't even look at that, correct?
No.
He kicked it back, right?
Right, when I first originally was brought on, the building inspector was surprised by that, he said he would have written the letter if he knew there was an application for a certificate of appropriateness, because they had received a letter. The
Who?
letter that.
Who received? No, you got an email, but nobody received a letter from this village.
You,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Okay.
Gary, it's-
Let's, they got a letter because Bruce, our code enforcement officer, is driving back.
Oh, that kind of letter, that kind of letter. Okay, so.
There was no letter prior.
Yeah, I'm back
We're-
in
we're-
May.
We're
We're in
actually
May
trying
and
to
June
determine
and
if
July.
anything was before the village,
They were not
before
in front of the
installed.
ARB, It was
No.
kicked back before it
Okay.
even went to the ARB.
And I apologize because I can show you my May things where Kelly is indicating that she is having contact and working on approval. And my contract is in January. And like my letter from my husband, the lawyer was, are you getting the application? Yes, we're putting the CAD drawings together. So, and that was in January. So I know there are other situations, but you're dealing with 2 lawyers. There's no way I would have not tried to make sure you guys approved of this. It just, I mean, $60,000, my husband.
And then just in reference to area variances, number I guess it's number 5 of that section that I quoted before, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but it's not necessarily to preclude the granting of the area variance. So the homeowner is unbelievably apologetic that that happened. We just wanted you to see the path of how it happened.
Okay.
It wasn't out of total, it wasn't disrespect or lack of respect for zoning.
It sounds as if the information that you received from East Hampton Fence was completely inaccurate. And therein lies the issue. So you received information that you thought you could rely on, you moved forward or allowed them to move forward, and it was completely inappropriate. So that is our issue. So here we are with, we can't have precedent setting of people blaming it on a contractor, fence company, whomever, third party, because there's a code and our job is to enforce the code and approve variances where there are uniqueness about it, as we've all discussed. You have done a nice job of putting a nice fence, although the one thing that is questionable, if you were to reduce the size, and here it's showing $45,000 for the cost if you were to do that, but then the larger fence was 15.
Right, well,
So-
I didn't really look at the thing, now you have the whole motor thing, I haven't really looked at any of that.
Yeah, the pricing thing doesn't really make sense.
One of the reasons, just to give an example of what took place, is we were in contact with East Hampton Fence the day, the very next day that I was here, which is over 2 weeks ago. And I can show you on my phone the timing. She has ghosted us, I guess that would be we've had no response from East Hampton Fence until 10 minutes before I left to come here. So I
Right,
quickly
so,
printed this
It's
out
not
to you,
surprising.
and she was supposed to be here with us. So we didn't have enough time to really review this, but this is what
But
she
I
said.
have my original proposal here, which we can work off that in terms of.
right, so it looks like to replace, I mean, let's just say it's 15,000, the fence itself that you originally purchased was 15,000. All the other stuff would still be presumably workable. The columns don't have to change, the motors don't have to change, all of that.
You just have to
The
connect it.
keypad.
You have to connect it.
But the reality is, a four-foot fence is not worth all that other money.
No, I'm just saying,
You know
it's
what I'm
part of our consideration is the cost to you to remedy the situation.
I know, but the
So-
reality is, that's not really.
But columns can't be more than 4 feet either, so they would have to be cut down also.
Well, no,
Like-
the columns actually don't apply, are not within the definition, because they're not part of a long structure, you're gonna have long
I don't know,
columns.
that's a good question. That's a good question.
I have within wall.
That would be a
columns
Chris
not
question.
defined wall.
I mean, let's just assume they're not, so it's like still $15,000
Right.
at least, plus labor.
Plus
So
the
it's gonna be
trees.
probably
Plus the
$20,000.
trees. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, we just want to be somewhere in the ballpark of understanding what the cost to you would
totality.
be to remedy the situation.
Right, and I
So-
could easily add in, I could put up the arborvitae also.
Right.
I'd rather add than subtract.
Right.
As we would want you to. as well.
So,
It does demonstrate a financial hardship, that's up to you to decide, what level that falls under. And then the other thing is a substantial variance that's being requested, and by measurements, I mean, it's a foot or a little less than a foot, so I really honestly think some of those things can be
This still
answered.
needs to be renoticed.
yes, so
absolutely.
I think that what we should do is
Something else I thought-
adjourn this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
What if we did something like, okay, as we're just food for thought, because we're gonna obviously renotice.
Yes,
How about if, like, just from around that corner, at least, just to like, maybe, I don't know, like a portion of it, we had a height of like 5.5 and then just brought
Well,
it down?
Actually, though, it isn't in the code something about, and I know this may complicate things further, but isn't there a section in the code that relates to corners where anything, the fence has to be lower?
It's supposed
so
to be
there's a
lower,
visual-
so for cars turning
Not turning.
or a
not
bike
higher.
Visibility on
coming.
corners.
But that's why we would put the deer fence, so you can have through visibility, and you wouldn't want to put trees there.
Right, so
It's
it
dangerous.
complicates,
That's a New York
Right.
State law.
yeah.
Having
Yeah.
the two fronts, the whole front does have a fence that complies completely for 4 feet. And then it comes around,
Right.
and then yeah, she has another front, because she's a corner.
Right,
No, we
I mean,
understand.
it-
We got
it's-
that.
we're just- Yeah.
Okay, clearly, there's a lot going on, hill going up, hill going down,
Sorry.
deer fence. I think there's a big lesson in here in, never accepting a fence company telling you they have approval until you absolutely see an approval.
I don't,
It has to come from a village official, not a fence company telling you they have it. That has to be for everyone to take note of that. We have heard all your issues and we appreciate them. We just need to think about the bigger picture. But we will think about the uniqueness as has been discussed. So why don't you renotice it? We'll digest all of this. We'll talk to the building inspector, see, we do have to think about the safety of not just your property, but if there's a bicycle coming up or people walking, to be able to see
right.
as the drivers are coming down that hill at a speed that might be more than 20 miles an hour, et cetera. So we do appreciate everything and we take it into consideration. We're not,
Which, Ms. Kane, if you think about it, like the only like real, because we have the trees on one side, so it's just as you're coming around. Right now, there's only one tree and just the fence, so there's pretty clear visibility. I mean, like securing that.
so we can go
corner-
back and look at that.
And it is
Yeah.
ornamental and see-through, it's not a wood closed.
No,
Right, no,
we're not
understood.
like-
We appreciate that. Okay,
well,
so,
thank you, and if you want to come see the property, you're more than, I don't have to be there, but you know, you can. I can get you in.
We are renoticing to add in the deer fence, is that what we're?
Yes,
And
yes.
what height are we requesting?
Well, what does everybody feel comfortable?
I don't think that's advisable for you to say what you're.
No. So I would say,
Asking for.
why don't you,
You guys decide that.
you put in what you want to ask for, we'll talk to the building
Yes, and if
inspector.
you wanna go by and have a look, you can also.
We actually all have been there and we've all taken pictures on our phone.
Have you spoken to your neighbors?
Yeah, well, this has been noticed twice, and then as far as speaking personally to the neighbors, no.
I don't
you-
think they're there really.
Yeah,
Wait, why don't we just ask, is there anyone here in the public that has any comments to talk about 20 Lighthouse as we've been discussing? Okay, just wanted to double check.
the only other thing just to be aware is, just make sure that you put in the height higher than,
Okay.
lower, because it can always go down, but if you ask for 5 and then you decide you want 6, it has to be renoticed. If you ask for 6 and then you decide you want 5, it doesn't.
okay.
So that's just
Right,
something to keep in
exactly.
mind.
Need something in writing, by next.
Okay, right, okay, I'll come in and I'll put this, I'll do the whole package, renoticing.
I'm not here next week, but
Okay,
I'll just say it.
Mm,
Wow.
Maybe get it in by Friday.
yeah, absolutely,
Okay,
all right, we
Thank-
appreciate your time.
Again, I apologize 100,000,000 times, because if I like remove the thought. Anyway, thank you very
Thank
much.
thanks for supplying
Thank
us all this information. Okay,
So we need to adjourn.
yes.
I make a motion to adjourn to the next meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Thank you again.
So May 16th. Yep.
369 Madison Street has requested an adjournment.
Okay. Hold on.
So do we need to open, we need to open it to adjourn it?
No, we did not notice
Oh,
that.
So we just make a motion to adjourn it to May 16th.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now,
132
So-
also has to, request an adjournment, and they're, waiting for planning board.
okay, so we have a motion to adjourn 132 Main Street.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. 16th planning board. Okay, so now we can move to 70 Glover, if we can open the public hearing for 70 Glover Street.
Yes, we need.
Just say,
Make a motion to open public hearing.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. And now we need to swear Anthony in. Anthony, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. If you can introduce yourself.
Sure, okay, so Anthony Vermigloss, 68 Union Street, I am the architect for the homeowners, thank you for joining us on Zoom.
They're there.
Okay, so this, I think some of you may remember this project was, this property was before the ZBA a few years ago, but it was a different project for a different owner. The present homeowners have owned the property for about a year or so. So just to orientate you with the property, it's an unusual property. It's a triangular shaped property, front yards, 1 and 1 on the left view. So we have 2 front yards and 1 rear yard. And that in itself produces nearly a negative building envelope. And if that was complicating things enough, the project is also in a FEMA flood zone, 6-foot AE zone. And it also has a high water table, about 1.4 feet above sea level. So it's a very unusual and difficult property.
And small size.
So there is an existing house on the property. It is a typical Sag Harbor 19th century cottage, 1.5 story. It has currently has a 1-story L-shaped addition coming off of the side and rear of it. That 1-story addition is approximately 6 inches away from the property line of the neighbor. And there is also an existing shed, which actually overlaps the neighbor's property lines. So what we are proposing to do, first and foremost, is to raise the existing house to FEMA compliance, where the existing original 19th century portion of the house to FEMA compliance. We're proposing to completely remove that 1-story addition, which is 6 inches from the property line. We are proposing to completely remove the shed, which is overlapping the property line. We are proposing to build a 2-story addition off of the rear of the existing structure, but this addition will be more centered on the property. In fact, the closest wall to the addition to the proposed addition to the north side of the property line, which is the only neighbor to the property, will actually overlap with the furthest wall of that existing 1-story. So there will be a substantial moving from the.
Was it like 12.5 feet? How far?
Yeah, it's about.
Right, I kind of.
We're gonna remove that existing shed completely. I wanted to go through the 5 tests here because I think they're particularly important with this property. So the first one, so we've got an existing single family dwelling, as we discussed, it's in a FEMA AE6 zone. There is this 1-story addition off the back, which I think was constructed in the late 20th century, but I think it follows the footprint of an earlier addition. The sky plane variance we're requesting is a total of 2,710 cubic feet. Of that 2,710 cubic feet, 775 cubic feet of that is simply required just to raise that existing front portion of the house up to FEMA compliance.
How much was that again? The part-
1,575.
1,575 cubic
Okay.
feet. So more than half of what we're requesting is simply to lift the part of the existing house we're requesting up to FEMA compliance.
Mhm.
The remainder is of that, the balance of that, which is I'm trying to remember this right here. On the north and front side, 1,010 cubic feet, and then on the south side, which is what we're calling the Long Island Avenue side, 125 cubic feet of sky plane relief.
Could you, I'm sorry, could you do those numbers again? The first one?
1,010 cubic feet on the north side and west side of the property, and 125 cubic feet on the south side. So of that variance that we're requesting for the addition, the bulk of that is also triggered by the needing it to be on FEMA compliance. If the house was, if the house was just on regular, not in a FEMA zone, it didn't have to be raised, like it just built in a normal relationship to the grade. The grade, we would only be asking for 400 cubic feet, I believe. So of this 2,710 cubic feet, we're asking for all but 400 cubic feet of it is directly related to FEMA compliance. And I might just add also for septic system compliance, because that also needs to be raised above the water table.
So will that be burned or something?
We do have a retaining wall, 3 foot.
Oh, I see. So it's all, the whole, you're raising the whole,
Is compliant. It's
right,
3
but you're raising the whole property. Okay.
Yes,
got
so
it.
the whole property will be coming up. So I think the existing grade is, it averages about 4 feet above sea level. Proposed grade, which is.
On to like 8 3/4.
Be about 6.5 feet above sea level. A little bit lower in the rear where we have the parking, because that doesn't need to be FEMA compliant.
So the
Oh, I see.
elevation
You're
numbers
adding
on here of 4.1 and 5, are those proposed or
The
existing?
survey, those are the existing.
Okay.
So the proposed is going to be more or less uniform at about 6.5 feet above sea level. That's for the grade.
And then you have the foundation, which gets you up to the 8 3/4.
Yeah. 8 3/4.
Right.
We're also asking for a front yard relief on the Long Island side of the avenue side of the property. We're asking for 5 feet of relief, 15-foot setbacks, but one thing I want to emphasize is that's really because of the way that the property is angled. That is just really only at 2 corners of the house, and one of those corners is actually the little bump out
I
that we
know.
need to do for the
It's only that much.
mechanical equipment, which has to be above the FEMA zone.
I do have to say, Anthony, given how, unique this triangle property is with the small size, that you've done a good job of trying to minimize what the variance is on the lot line,
I mean, one more thing I want to say, which I think is important, really important here too, is although we're asking for 2,710 cubic feet, we're removing 3,200 cubic feet of non-conformity by taking down that
Side.
story addition. And just because it's right on the property line, practically the entire thing, it violates the sky plane as well as the setbacks.
What's the GFA of these?
The GFA is,
That's a good
I think it's
question.
about 1,000. 500 on the first floor and 900 on the second floor.
And what's the GFA of the original structure?
I think it's 1,600.
Is that on you?
Yeah, 1,615.
Where do I see that?
No, I can't remember the numbers.
The, what we're.
What do you allow? What was the GFA
The
allow?
GFA, okay, yeah.
Yeah, what is the
GFA
allowable?
allowed is, I think, that's 2,700 square feet.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna
just so
be-
you're
we'll-
under.
We'll be under the GFA.
Okay, okay,
Because we've had problems before. where
right, no,
people-
that,
yeah.
that's helpful, okay.
So, also I would add that, there's some
Did you
really.
talk to the building inspector about the 50% expansion thing?
I think we're under that.
You're under a 50% expansion?
I think so.
Okay. Because for pre-existing non-conforming structures to expand, they can
Yeah,
expand up to 50%, but you have to notice that variance. That's a variance for this board.
okay,
So I just don't know if we didn't notice it.
okay, I can double check that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good to double check that just
Mhm.
because,
Size increase.
yeah.
What else should we?
One question I had was just out of curiosity, I know that it's an old house, so on the first floor, just in terms of the plate heights, just because we're creating pyramid variants.
Mhm.
So what are your plate heights proposed for the first floor and the second floor, just in the addition?
There's 8 feet and 8 feet,
So they're both, so on the second floor, it's an 8 foot.
yeah. A little lower than that, I don't remember exactly.
This is where we can't read the yellow.
Yeah, the one, well, the other, it just.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I realized that when I printed everything out, for some
Yeah.
reason the line breaks came, a little weird.
I can, yeah.
The total height of the whole total height of the addition from existing grade, not from proposed grade, from existing grade is 25 feet.
Okay,
Okay.
So normally that's, 32 feet is allowed, so we're even the addition is well under the existing.
I mean, even though we do have, there are reasons for the pyramid variance. Are there any ways that you can think of to reduce the height a little bit?
Well, it's kind of weird because if you look in the addition, it's actually more of the first floor that is violating the sky plane than the
The
second floor.
Yeah,
Because the second floor is like pushed over, I pushed it over as
Right.
close to the center of the property as I could. So, lowering that second floor, reducing it, it's not gonna buy you a significant amount of cubic feet reduction.
For the
and at
variance.
the moment, the floor line in the new addition is lining up with the floor line. The second floor,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually a little higher, but, yeah. Okay, one other thing, just to mention too, is I know that the whole.
oh no, there's steps here. This is higher, so the addition and the second floor is higher than the
The
existing.
initial.
Right, well, the existing, I mean, the ceiling height in the existing.
Right, it's
first
probably
floor
very
is like
low.
Less than 7 feet.
Yeah,
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, and the floor plate is 6 inches thick,
right.
so I mean, that was just, basically. That difference there,
Has the ARB seen any of this?
no, not yet.
So I know, this is much better than the previous owner, any of their submissions. But I do remember that the ARB did go to visit this, and I don't remember what their recommendations were. I mean, because it was a contributing
This has to be-
house.
I wasn't on the ARB at the time.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this came before us many times.
Okay,
So you might investigate that a little, because I don't remember what they thought was
Yeah,
worthy of
that's
saving and not
very-
saving.
I remember it being significant.
Yes, but I don't remember what parts particularly were.
We are saving, the original part of the house. we're
Yeah, but
saving.
it's
just
really
that,
their determination, not ours about that, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
so you might want to have at least a discussion with them before we,
can I ask, we open up to the public? Hi, are you here to give your view on this?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, great,
All right,
yes.
great.
Hi Todd, hi Jeff. And I want to preface my.
Hey, could you
comments-
introduce
Oh,
yourself?
Yeah, I'm Paula Wagner. I live at 74 Glover Street, which is the next door neighbor.
Mm-hmm,
I want to preface this by saying they've been great neighbors. Jeff and Todd asked me when they first bought the house, what do you want? And I told them, and pretty much they've done, you know, what I asked. They added a couple things, and that's what I'm here to talk about. So having said that, they aren't just raising the house, they're raising the property. 3
Yes.
feet. That's big.
Mhm. 3 feet.
I'm wondering, I was going to raise my house as well, and I decided not to for various reasons. But I wanted to minimize the height. And what I did was I asked the architect, what's the minimum height that you can raise the house to comply with FEMA? She said 18 inches. So is it necessary to raise up the house 3 feet? That's my question. I know that I was going to put in a septic tank, and I probably will, a new septic tank. And what I was going to do was not raise the whole property, but make a berm.
Mhm.
And that would make sense, you know? So I'm wondering, do we really need to raise the whole property 3 feet? The other issue is that in 1985, my house was renovated. And the builder did a really neat thing. He took out some windows on the side that faces their house, 70 Glover.
And do you have a contributing historical home?
Do I have what?
A contributing historical home?
I do. And he closed off so that I'm not looking into my neighbor's kitchen and into their house, you know. So the living area where I am is really cut off from direct view into their house. So I'm wondering, on the second floor in back, if you look at your plan, there are 3 windows. And I was, Jeff gave me, he was very generous, and it took about an hour to do a walkthrough with the house and the proposed house.
Mhm.
And I was concerned that the windows were gonna look right into my living area, which has like a skylight. It's like a window skylight extension. And he said, well, look, I'll just, you know, we can change it from a bathroom to a closet. And I thought, perfect, that's great. But there's still a window there. So I'm just wondering, why do we need a window there? But, you know, these are my concerns. You don't have to respond.
So just to, no, these are all fair questions to be asking, but with regard to windows, that's really the ARB.
Okay.
That wouldn't be us. For us, we are gonna look at the variances, you know, for both the pyramid. If it's, we don't have to worry about GFA, and then we have to look at the lot line. And clearly it looks as if they've done a good job of moving what was
Oh, my gosh.
4 to 12 and a half. So
Yeah.
I was hoping, you know, that's great, and they're being thoughtful there, and obviously the shed. So those are things that come in front of this board that we would look at.
Okay, then the other thing that is a concern of mine is the pyramid. And how high the house is with this 3 feet property raising, how that's going to affect me. And I looked at the architect's plans. It was a little difficult to understand the sky plane plan. And I was wondering if it would be possible to give me an idea of how the pyramid would come onto my property.
So the shadow, you mean the shadow?
The shadow, yeah. Because once the building is built, it's done.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I know the ARB sometimes requests neighboring houses so that you see, I mean, I guess
Anthony,
that-
can you do that?
Yeah, I mean.
Be like certain hours of the day, right?
Sure. I think we can do something along those lines. I think one thing that might be helpful, I mean, if it's okay with Paula here, is if I can go into measure your house height, put it next to, sometimes the ARB likes to see
See
this.
them
you know,
next
two
to
houses
each other.
Next to each other.
Right.
Just showing, the relationship very accurately, the distance and the height and how that's gonna change, how where your house is relative to this, both existing and
I can
proposed.
give you the plan of my house that was done originally.
Yeah.
When I was going to
Great.
raise the house, okay.
Second, the second thing I wanted to address, I mean, the home, Jeff did mention to me about the back window issue. I just didn't have a chance to really, because it was just a couple of days ago, I didn't have a chance to really look through the plan to do that, but that is something we're gonna address. One thing we're definitely gonna do is flip that bathroom and the closet, so, yeah, we can definitely minimize the amount of windows facing, your side of the property there on the second floor, that shouldn't be an issue at all.
That's great.
The first thing.
So the height.
in Reverse order here, the first thing is just about the grading here.
Mhm.
You have to understand that this septic system, it's these new IA systems, and this is really being, the grading of the property is really being driven by that septic system.
To be above the water table.
Yeah, it has to be above the water, and you can see in the survey, it's taking up almost the entire
Yeah.
property here. I can talk to the
Engineer.
engineer about this and see if there's a way to maybe like you said, berm it instead of having the retaining walls there. I don't wanna, at this point, I don't wanna promise anything until I speak to him. But sometimes, we can figure out a way to make that work with some berming rather than the retaining wall. But yes, just, please understand that this septic system is taking up the bulk of the.
And clearly that's evident on the survey.
The other
So-
thing is that, it's not a huge property, but having that wall all the way around it is,
The retaining wall.
the retaining wall. I mean, it is,
It's like.
it's a bit severe. Yeah.
It'll change the character.
It will change.
It'll change the
yeah,
character.
Yeah,
And that's again, that's more ARB.
well, but we can take,
Oh, great.
You can, go ahead. You just have to unmute.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Thank you. The problem with the berm, one of the real assets of the property is that there is a yard. If we lose, if there's a berm in there, yeah, I mean, Paula knows I play Frisbee with our dog 2 and 3 times a day. And the run in that yard, that really makes the garden. Suddenly we have a berm in there, it really changes the character. If there's a possibility of lowering the retaining wall and lowering the overthing that the engineer allows us to do that's fine. But to have a berm suddenly really changes the character and the experience of what we bought and how we are in the yard. So that is one thing I'd like to request. It doesn't happen.
Okay.
We're trying to accommodate every single thing that we possibly can, and have it still make sense on making these changes and the expense and cost that it goes into it. But aesthetically and the experience still needs to be somewhat satisfying.
Understood. So I'd say one thing that is good is that you guys are in conversation, which is greatly appreciated. And if Anthony can look into what the potential options are with the septic, let's come back and see. Obviously, when you're in the FEMA zone, you're correct that they don't need to go they don't have to go the 2+ generally, but we do need to look at the septic system in order to follow the rules to be above the water table as is required. So let's continue to get that information, and then Anthony can work on shadow impact. And we can be.
but I also, you go ahead. Yeah.
One other thing, and that is that obviously there's going to be a lot of dust and debris coming into my house because of the demolition and then raising. And I'm wondering if, I know they're gonna rent the place for the summer, but if this could be done during the winter when my windows are closed, it would be great. So that's.
Generally, when there's contractors, they will put, a fence around, and they can put things to help buffer some of that.
Yeah, we were.
That's required.
We were talking about scheduling here, we figured two sessions with ZBA and then, the ARB over the summer. So, I mean, I think we're not gonna be starting this over the summer anyway, so we're probably we're looking at early fall.
I think though that before we
We can
move,
figure
we
that out.
would move forward, we'd like to have the ARB's reaction to the whole project. Just to make
Given
sure
it's
that,
historical.
because it's historical, it's a contributing house. They may have comments about the retaining wall around the perimeter, but they may also make comments about how you've added on or what has been torn down. I don't know if the addition in the back they feel is significant or not. I can't remember from the previous application.
Well, it was a totally different design.
Yeah, I know, but it has nothing to do with the design. It has to do with what's
How it was recorded,
the house.
how it was
that
recorded
put it
in the register.
Register.
Yep.
What's considered important in the house.
We can do a discussion item with the ARB,
Yeah,
so I think
because I know they went and visited, so they may want to go visit again because it's a whole new
Yeah.
board.
Can we get on for the first discussion item first?
I just want to say this, I happened to come to visit the house that's going to be renovated. And you pulled in the driveway. And I was really impressed, or not impressed, by the proximity of your house to their house and the amount of space.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you came here to express your desires.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a very positive thing for us to have. And then thank you for coming.
And it's great that your neighbors are sharing and spending time, because that's what makes it work.
As I was driving here tonight, I was looking down, I went down to Water Street, and clearly our houses are the closest.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
You're right.
On Glover, right? There's other streets that are like that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, we appreciate everybody's time, and so let's have a motion.
Wait, is there anybody else?
Is there anyone else online that would want to talk?
Thank you,
Yes, thank
everyone. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Marty. And Paula, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Paula. See you
Thanks, Paula.
next
Anthony,
week.
do you have anything else you wanna?
No, I think we're good. For, the next meeting, we'll come with, I think the main thing is just the relationship of the two houses and the shadow, thing there, what we can do with that.
Well, and also the
And the-
ARB
Yeah, septic
And-
height,
Septic height, yes.
Septic height.
and the
ARB.
ARB input.
right?
My feeling in the end with the septic is gonna be, probably the answer is gonna be no, it is what it is, but,
But let's just, let's just firm that up,
Yeah,
right?
I'll make sure.
That'll be helpful.
I mean, I don't know, and but maybe, I don't know if it's possible, instead of doing a retaining wall on the outside, just to have the land berm up and then plant it. It might be less severe.
Avoid a berm like the owner said, but I
Yeah.
think, if we can get it steep enough,
Right.
because we could theoretically start that at the property line.
Right, right,
So
yes.
maybe 6 to 1/2 dozens of the other, because you're the 3 people.
Just ease up.
berm, and then with the retaining wall anyways, but I have to talk with my,
Understood. All right, so if we could have a motion to adjourn,
I so
7D Glover.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we will move to, and we'll close the public hearing. We forgot to do that. Yes, we did.
You're not closing,
Oh, right, okay. So now we will move to the decision to be read on 56 Redwood Road.
Thanks, you guys. We're signing off. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
The application for 56 Redwood Road, Sag Harbor, variances were sought to construct a one-story addition and entry steps to the existing residence. Specifically, variances were sought in sections of the code, section 300-4.2, regulations of 300-9.4, to allow the proposed rear yard setback and entry steps to be 21.1 feet, and 27 feet required. And to allow the proposed rear yard setback to the addition to be 27.5 feet with 30 feet required. This is a property that's on the water, it's on Sag Harbor Cove, it's 18,495 square feet.
Okay,
It's
thank
a
you.
district, a lot of feet wide. And for the reasons set forth in the determination, the board finds the 5-part test, and hereby approves variance request.
Great, thank you very much.
I make a motion to approve the decision as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we can make a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Bye, Barbara. Bye, Barbara.
Bye, everybody.
Aye.